life as a series of happy incidents. Thank you, Anita ma'am. We welcome. Please throw us some light.
Thank you so much, Krisha. And that's the maximum number of times I have been referred to as ma'am in less than 1 minute. So I'm not sure how to feel about that. But thank you all so much for joining me this Sunday evening. Thank you, Pooja, for sharing some lovely thoughts. Indeed, a great reminder on many fronts. Thank you, Mentor Mitr, to show your testimony and commitment towards mentoring tomorrow. And on that note, I'm so happy to be here. I'm going to talk a little bit about leadership principles and surviving the pandemic. So, Rhythm, if you can take me to the next slide, and I'd love to start. I think, like Pooja, but I also would like to start with a quote. It's a slightly longer quote, but you might want to pay close attention. It's a quote by somebody whom I really, really look up to, which is Leonardo da Vinci. That's for another day, but the quote by itself is, in my opinion, very, very thought provoking, and something that if I were to like leave you with just one thought, then my request to each one of you who's watching right now and will watch later on, please see if you can imbibe this quote and live this quote. And what does it say? I love those who can smile in trouble, who can gather strength from distress and grow brave by reflection. It's the business of little minds to shrink, but they whose heart is firm and whose conscience approves their conduct will pursue their principles unto death. Well, this is something which Pooja also touched upon in the various things that she said. I'm going to talk a little bit about what's happening on the leadership scene and what can we take back perhaps from what's happening around us. Well, the way the world stands today, if you look at how many companies are coming across, and some of the things is what I have listed here. For example, I've spoken about how maybe Apple taken has taken an initiative to vaccinate their employees at their workplace. Mahindra and Mahindra, which is again a big giant, has paid for the vaccination of their employees. There is Amazon with its $800 million investment into COVID safety measures. There is Borosil, who's again doing a lot of benevolent things for the families of people who have passed on due to COVID. Volkswagen has got literally like 100 points plan. Workday, Britannia. Well, I could go on and on about this particular list. Now, why am I talking about this? The reason why I'm talking about is I hope you understand what's the buzz that's going on around you. Pre 2020, if you were to look at the conversations of all these brands that I spoke about and many more, the conversation would probably a lot about top line, bottom line, or okay, am I a market leader, or what can I do to be a market leader? And it would be in the breadth of cutthroat innovation or cutthroat competition. Whereas now, thanks to the pandemic, I think the whole outlook has shifted where apart from the technological transition, that's a big one, right? Most of the companies have ended up investing heavily into technology so that their business as usual operations can continue as seamlessly as possible. Of course, as a result of that, a lot of empathy based conversations have started. Maybe if you guys have been in on the leadership scene or you're following certain articles, you know that the first buzzword these days with regards to leadership is empathy. Because is there any other way? Can I really work with my huge diverse workforce, or can I work with my family who's literally in my room breathing down my neck if I were to not practice empathy? So empathy is like clearly something to look out for and something to really follow when I'm dealing with anybody. And last but not the least, if I were to talk about leaders in a workplace context, organizational context, of course, there's a lot of focus on employees' overall mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual health. Very different from organizing birthday cakes, right? Very different from organizing large conferences or outbounds, because everybody is trying to do the best that they can do. So on that note, today if we were to talk about leadership, then I would say they are three pronged. So if I can go to the next slide, this is how the leadership mantra looks as of today. Three pertinent, three very critical, three important, three do or die, three survival mantras that most leaders are following today are these three. Number one, how do I really take care of my talent? Of of course, yes. If I'm not able to take care of my talent, then what do I produce and how do I take care of the people who will consume those products, which is my customers. So the other thing is, of course, how do I engage with my customers? What kind of conversation do I have with my customers? But then, if you really, really notice, the bigger shift that has happened is how do I really contribute to the community? So when you're talking about principles, talking about leadership, or even as an individual, if you really want to look at it, imagine, like, let's say, there is so much of news, there is so much of noise, there is so much of data. There are so many things that are happening around the world. But let's say today my family member were to undergo something, then my only concern is, will I be able to arrange that oxygen bed? Will I be able to arrange the right kind of hospital? Now, in that case, all the news in the world is not what's going to help us. But one thing that's clearly going to help us, and in fact, it has helped me help others as well, is the whole sense of community. So whether it is, am I like a part of a school group, or am I part of a community group, a Toastmaster group? It doesn't matter. A leadership group, a CEO group, entrepreneur group. It really doesn't matter. The power of the community has never ever been felt like today, because today I can just reach out to that community, and get that right information at the right time to rise above the voice. So this is the new mantra of leadership. Here's what I'd like to share with all of you. Moving on, I'd rather, rather than say to you as to what could be the leadership principles, I want to really leave you with exploratory questions. I want you to really pay close attention to these questions, because when you ask yourself these, somewhere in them is where I believe the answers are. For example, what are you most curious about today? Or what new skill or strategy? What is the new learning? What is the new association that you can build today, which can take your team, your company, your community, and yourself ahead? Don't get me wrong. Today, if there is a leader, or if there is an organization which is over talking the business angle, which is over talking the numbers, then they are definitely not going to be considered great employers in the long run, because of the empathy quotient not being there. So what are you curious about? So am I curious about well-being? Am I curious about us collectively passing on this phase? Then yes, maybe I'm slowly beginning to get the pulse to the first principle. Am I having the right kind of curiosity? The second thing is, can I follow it through with action and test through experience? Today, most of the people are forced to take decisions day in, day out, and they have no clue whether it's going to work in the long run, or whether it is going to work in the good way or not. You see so many youngsters literally becoming overnight call centers. You see so many youngsters or other tech people overnight designing apps which can help people overcome the pandemic in some way or the other. Whatever happens tomorrow, the fact is, today, most of us, even in the situation of crisis, if we do our best to try something new, follow it through action, and test it with experience, we will definitely be wiser for tomorrow. Wouldn't all of us like that? So, wouldn't that be a great principle to imbibe? The third thing is, how are we showing up in our world? Whether it's as a leader or whether it's as an individual family member, how am I showing up today is extremely critical. You all know this. I mean, I'm sure many of you have experienced this, whether it's birthdays, whether it's weddings, whether it is, and I'm sorry to say this, whether it is funerals. We are all used to attending that, all of that online. Now, could we even have imagine how we were pre 2020? We were having travel plans. We were having we it's like life literally shifted. Trust me, sometimes I feel like, okay, is this how alien world also looks, where everybody's confined to one place and glued to a screen? Has its huge advantages though. But yeah, the third thing is, am I showing up in my world, or how am I showing up in my world? Although there could be a lot of bad things happening around, am I showing up in the best way possible, or am I contributing to the negative vibe? In fact, Pooja also spoke about this. The whole world is, and I sincerely agree, is about vibrations. So when I'm showing up, is somebody being insecure because of me, Or is somebody feeling hope because of me? Is somebody feeling happy because I have spoken to them? Or is somebody feeling sad and dejected and going deeper down in a hellhole? So how I'm showing up is a third principle that I would really love to consider. The fourth one: how are we holding our grace under pressure? How willing are we that we can walk into a path where maybe it's complete darkness and maybe nobody has gone before? I mean, whether it's the different kinds of research that's happening, or even at your and my level, maybe even the fact that kids are in the same space, or maybe that I'm not able to land the right opportunity, or maybe I have no clue how my life is going to look like, how my relationships are going to look like. Lot has changed, right? I mean, although I can mean it in a lighter vein, it's not in a lighter vein. Even like, dating or anything, especially if those of you are who are youngsters are watching this, you know that there are a lot of things which unknowingly could create a huge pressure in us. But then, how do I deal with that, and how much grace do I show in that circumstance is totally up to me, right? Like, it's totally my choice. So because that's what is something that will build our own resilience, and that's what also will maintain that collective positive vibe that all of us keep talking about. Yes, positive may not be a great word today anymore, but being positive will never go out of fashion. So that's the fourth principle. Fifth one: remember the art and science to everything. Now, by this, the point I'm trying to make is that this is the time when creativity, being creative, being innovative has become most important. The best of them have gone through it in the last year, where literally life seemed like it's going to come to a standstill, or everything seems like it'll come to a standstill. And the fact that we have versions now to the lockdown, I think now I've lost count. Lockdown 1, lockdown 2, lockdown 3, I mean, God knows, right? But then while all this is happening, how can I get creative about showing up, whether in a work context or whether in a familial context? Can I over communicate? Can I try a little differently? I'm getting inducted online completely. What creative ways can I employ so that I still maintain the work ethic for myself and for the people that I'm going to work with? So, yes, remember the art and science to everything. It's always a great balance to work towards. The next thing is, self love. That I have faced, on occasion, where, especially with some tough clients, where, self love at one point of time, people used to feel like, oh my God, it's like some kind of a numbo jumbo, or is that like a thing, or maybe it's a thing that's only practiced by certain set of people. But trust me, never ever has this been more important, because we are going through stuff like we've never gone before, right? For stating the obvious. But then, if I'm not completely like secure about myself, if I'm not completely believing in myself, then it's very easy to crack. Trust me, last week itself, I heard this really close friend of mine, and she was like a fantastic lady in her early 50s, rocking it on Instagram, giving all the youngsters a run for their money. And then I heard the news about her, needing a plasma at about 2:30 p.m. And then evening she was no more. And I was like, I think one of the very few things that's really affected me was this. But then why am I telling you this? Is because we all might listen to some or the other thing that could affect us deeply, or we could be losing jobs, or we could be like, not able to get the opportunities that we want, or we might find it difficult to move on from the people who have passed on. So at that time, self love, please don't look at it in a selfish context. What I mean is that if we were to practice self love, which means being physically fit, being mentally fit, and that's again an area where a lot of people are showing up, right? Suddenly hobbies have become the new thing to do. Suddenly it's all about gardening, cooking, baking, camping in our backyards, and like, so many things that are there. Why? Because people are trying to make sense of it for themselves, and investing in themselves in the process. Great idea, if you ask me. Never before has it been an important time when self love will prove to be so critical. Because if I love myself, I'll be able to maintain the composure required to distribute love to the others. I can only give others what I have, right? So if I love myself, I can love all of you as well. So self love. Please invest in whatever kind of physical, mental, spiritual growth that you need to, in case you already are not. Last but not the least, and I think Pooja also gave some great examples for this with regards to, say, World War, etc. What's our belief about everything leading somewhere? Yeah, it could be a really bad day today, or it could be really bad time these days. However, it all will lead somewhere. I know that today so many things that are happening to me, and I've heard this from so many people out there, wouldn't be happening if it were also not to be to this pandemic. Yes, some of us are having it really rough, but tomorrow, maybe day after, maybe next year, maybe the year after, but it's all going to lead somewhere. And I truly believe that it's all going to work out well in the end. If it's not working out, it's still not the end. Maybe that's why we are probably now bracing ourselves for the third wave of COVID, right? We've already built our resilience. So the last principle that I feel is great to know. So what's your belief? How am I looking at this whole situation and about tomorrow? So on that note, if I were to move on, what I actually shared with you in terms of exploratory questions is borrowed from the seven principles of Leonardo da Vinci. I mean, though there are some great principles, there are Italian words to it. I would really request you to go through and lean into them. I definitely get a lot of my power from the seven principles. Having said that, can you be all this if you want to imbibe these principles? Can you be visible? And when I say visible, what I mean is that to every person, every family member, to every team member, in whatever way you can be visible, you can be reachable, can you be that? Somebody, just someday, for somebody, just a kind word could be more than enough. So never before has this been more important to stay visible in front of everybody. Emotional intelligence. Yes, emotional intelligence, which was like kind of a corporate buzzword till last year, and something on which training programs were conducted. If you ask me, this is the time when everybody's emotional intelligence is really being tested. What am I doing to build my own emotional intelligence? Ability to zoom in, zoom out. This has got nothing to do the Zoom on which you and I are engaging. This is more about, I know I'm going to be stepping into a lot of hard things. I may be required to, let's say, take some tough business calls or take some tough individual personal calls. So if I have done that, then it's extremely crucial for me to also step back from it so that I, get back to my zone. Otherwise, if I'm stuck into something that may not be very helpful, I'll really lose myself. And that may not be great for the people around you as well. So make sure that you keep a balance of zooming in and zooming out. An example of that, of course, would be what kind of exposure am I maintaining with regards to, let's say, the death statistics or the ranking table that is there with regards to countries. I think in this case, think just a little local, think less global, and that's okay, because after all, you want to be able to help somebody around you rather than be well versed in the statistic with regards to what's happening in the world. But then your choice totally. Fact-based decision making. At this point of time, if I'm going through, let's say, a tough situation, panic, anxiety, it's very natural for all these things to take over. However, not a great space to operate from if I have to make some decisions. So try and please be aware about the facts when you're taking any decision. Most important is to lead ourselves, because only if we are leading ourselves is will we be able to lead others, whether it's in a family context or a relationship context or in a work context. Ethical practice and civic mindedness. Yes, my neck probably will seem to be on the line, but then can I really force somebody who seems to have contracted COVID to come to work, to show up, to meet those customers? Obviously not fair, right? So it's extremely critical that I try and be as humane, as ethical, as civic minded as possible. It's definitely going to play a large role from an overall contribution to this world. I spoke about how how innovation is extremely necessary, anyways, in every area of your life. And last but not the least, demonstrate and lead by example. The way, actions speak louder than words. We all know that. So always doing the right. I know that even in in my own personal context, so many times I have seen, like when my partner and I are like stuck in the same place, it's like we try and demonstrate the positivity in even with the team. They feel dejected, they lose hope, and then you be chirpy, you be positive, and you try and contribute in the right manner possible. Because if you can be all this, trust me, not just principles, you've done something much more from a contribution to this world, your personal world and the world at large. So, if this is what my request to you was, then some of my personal mantras are this. Unpredictability is something we really can get shaken up, right? So even I don't know with regards to both my businesses. Honestly, I have no clue with certain projects getting delayed, certain investors, not leaning in on me with regards to decisions. Yes, I go through some really unpredictable moments, but then I try and see what is predictable and I keep doing that. Extremely helpful, if you ask me. Finding the routine in the chaos is great. Fostering security, this is a time when really it's okay to take a step back and be and show more of kindness, rather than, let's say, we try and be the star. Rejiggle financial plan. I would say this is a big one. I mean, even if you are the youngest person who's looking at this, my thing is, try and be focused on the financial angle from the word go. Reduces the other stresses that you feel drastically. Start that systematic invest plan, or invest in that smallest way possible. Look at your debt ratio, your savings, your habits, your life habits, everything. Because you know what? Amazon has not stopped working, Mintra has not stopped working. So all our online deliveries are happening. But what am I shopping for? Is my financial planning taking care of a unforeseeable time? Over communicate with everybody. Like, trust me, I mean, like with everybody. When Mentor Mitra reached out to me, and I was like, yes, let's do this. Because you know what? This is my way of also again communicating that yes, it's all gonna be good. This too shall pass. There's no other way but for us to go through it together. Time to broad base the skills, and I really believe in this a lot. Another reason why I believe in Da Vinci also, he was a polymath 500 years back. To know so many different things, or to dabble in different things, will always place you better in terms of pursuing different career paths. If nothing, it will make you a great conversationalist. You have my word for it. It's also, in these times are also an opportunity to build resilience through that, right? Kids, I mean, I'm amazed. I mean, in fact, I feel a little sad at times, but I'm also extremely proud about the resilience that these guys will show when, today's 5-year old tomorrow turns 10 or 15, or today's 15-year old tomorrow turns 2025. I don't think they're going to face an event like this again. Touch wood, at least I hope not. And be mindful that what I appreciate appreciates. So if I'm appreciating negativity, if I'm giving focus to COVID all the time, then I'm sorry, that's what I'll keep seeing for myself, that's what I'll keep thinking for myself, feeling for myself. So be very mindful about what am I appreciating these days. These days, what is it that I'm appreciating? That I'm still sleeping in my own bed. Sounds like a really small thing, but when I hear so many other stories about oxygen beds, ventilator beds, isn't this something that I can be really grateful for? So yes, what I appreciate. So I'm careful about what I appreciate. Explore different gigs. I mean, this is a time when you can, teach somebody a new skill, or yourself learn a new skill, or start pursuing that hobby that you thought 10 years back. Read that article which you had saved for later. Watch that video which you wanted to for the longest time. Do different stuff, try different stuff. So what if you fail? It's okay, it's really still fine. It's going to lead you somewhere. And last but not the least, and Pooja also mentioned to it, make peace with what's beyond your control. Because what you can't control, you can't control, right? And the more I again lament about it, the more if I feel irrelevant about it, it's neither going to serve me nor is it going to serve others. If you're able to help anybody with some genuine information, genuine assistance, go all out, do it. But otherwise, just stay safe. Double mask if you're stepping out. That's what I would like to leave you at.